All right, so this is the second part of this unit, and this is going to focus on emotions. So, the first topic we're going to talk about is emotional theories. So, motivated behavior is often driven by powerful emotions, and sometimes they disrupt our lives. Emotions are our body's adaptive response, whether it's fear or anger, they help us survive. When we face challenges, emotions help us adapt. Understanding emotional intelligence, we saw that it's important to understand others' emotions and understand our own to help us detect pain and fear. And they also help us help others. The three big topics we'll talk about in this unit are the theories of emotions, how we express emotions, and how our body experiences emotions. So, first off, what are emotions? Emotions are a mix of our physiological arousal, heart pounding, sweating, how we express our emotion, whether we run or we smile or we laugh, and how we understand cognitively conscious experience thoughts of what's occurring and feeling. The controversy is really how all of these fit together. Does thinking come before our feeling? Does our physical sense come before what we think it is? So we're going to look at the 5 theories on the order in which the different events occur in our body, in our mind, okay, and in our expression. The first one is the James Lange theory. James Lange believes that the theory believes it occurs where a stimulus occurs, a bell rings, that leads to a physical response, us jumping, that then leads to us to having emotion, fear. So emotion follows our behavior. Physical response causes an emotion. William James and Carl Lange explored this idea in 1890, and it's really important that you draw these diagrams and these pictures in your book. The stimulus occurring, the car coming at you, your heart pounding, and then you experiencing fear. The examples are also important to include. Here you are walking down a dark alley late at night. You hear footsteps behind you and you begin to tremble. Your heart races and your breath deepens. You notice these physiological changes occurring in your body, and so then you experience fear. Okay, another one down below is a dog barking, your heart rate increasing, then you experience anxiety. Canon Bard believes that the emotion of and the arousing stimulus or the arousing thing that happens in our body happens at the same time. So we have a physiological response and the emotion happening simultaneously. Walter Cannon and Philip Bard believe they occur at the same time. One doesn't cause another. So you have your heart pounding and you experience fear at the same time. I always think of a double cannon going off at the same time. Here's your example. You're walking down a dark alley late at night. Okay, you hear footsteps behind you. You begin to tremble. At the same time as these physiological changes, you experience fear. The two-factor theory, also known as the Sacher-Singer theory, is the first one that starts bringing in a thought process that takes place. They believe you experience an emotion. First, you have to have a physical arousal and a cognitive label happening simultaneously. So we experience a physiological response and give it a cognitive label of what we're experiencing. We get butterflies in our stomach. Okay, so our stomach drops. All right, that could be because we're in love or fear. So we're putting a label on it. Stanley Sacher and Jerome Singer came up with this theory. They believe that memories and our thought process help us understand the physical response happening to our body. So here you are walking down an alley late at night. You hear footsteps behind you and you begin to tremble. Your heart rate increases and your breath deepens. You think at the exact same time this is happening, oh my gosh, this is fear, and you express fear. So reviewing the theories really quickly, when you have an emotion that occurs at the same time as a physical response, you know that that's Canon Bar. Emotions following behind a physical response, that would be the first one we looked at, James Lange. And if you're putting a cognitive label on this time, it's known as the Sacher-Singer or the two-factor theory. So review real quick the James Lang, you have the physiological response and then you experience the emotion. Cannon-Bard, the physiological response and the emotion at the same time. Here's where it gets tricky, okay? The next two theories after this one are really going to question when we put the label on it. The two-factor theory right now believes that a physiological response happens and you give it the cognitive label at the exact same time and you express the emotion. So down here, you have your heart pounding, and at the same time that your heart is pounding, you're putting the label of that you're afraid on it. Then you experience fear. So the extension of the emotional theories, okay, really questions when does cognition, that thought process, happen? Okay, does it happen at the same time as you're feeling the emotion, kind of what we talked about? But the two other theories believe that sometimes it happens right after the emotion, and the other one, or right after the physical arousal, and the other one believes it happens right after the emotion. So the two people that are responsible for this are Robert Zinyies and Joseph Ledoux and Lazarus and Sacher Singer. So first one of the extension theories is Lazarus, Sacher, and Singer. Richard Lazarus expanded on the Sacher-Singer initial theory with the help of their research. They all believe cognition needs to take place before the emotional response. However, one needs to label the physiological response right after it occurs, because sometimes your heart can pound for fear, sometimes your heart can pound for love. So they believe that you use your emotions and experiences to label the physiological thoughts that happen in your body. Okay, so Lazarus and Sacher Singer believes that the physical happens, then the cognitive label, then your emotional response. Okay, so here we have the event takes place, the appraisal is your label, you're putting it on it, and then the emotional response. I don't like this diagram as much as I like this one. Okay, your heart is pounding, you have your physical response, then you put the cognitive label, then you express fear. Okay, Robert Zinyies and Joseph Ledoux, okay, they explored and researched the brain's response to an emotional response, and they found that some emotions take a low road in the neural pathway, and they bypass our cortex, which is our thought process, and run right to the eye or the ear via the thalamus to the amygdala, causing the emotion to occur without the label. So here's their idea. Okay, they believe that you have a physiological response, then you put the emotional label on, or then you put the emotional response, and then you put the cognitive label or the appraisal on it. Oftentimes we use subliminal images. They use subliminal images and they watched fMRIs and how people's brains and the amygdala respond to it before they even put the cognitive label. So there's no conscious thinking until after. So here we have our stimulus. You have your heart pounding, you express fear, then you put the label on it. Here you have your event, your emotional response, then right here would be the appraisal that you'd put on it. Okay. Here's a great chart to copy down. I would pause it. I would freeze it. It goes over all the different theories that you need to know. Know that these three right here, okay, really deal with the cognitive label. Okay. Cognitive label happens at the same time as the physical. Cognitive label happens, as you saw, instant before the cognitive appraisal. And this one happens the appraisal happens sometimes without our awareness, and it happens after our emotions. So make sure you look those over.